The rain hammered against the taxi windows as Elena Martinez clutched the crumpled letter in her trembling hands. The ink had run slightly from her tears, but she could still make out the words, "Come to Blackwater Lighthouse. I'm waiting for you. James." It had been 3 years since James disappeared. 3 years since the Coast Guard declared him lost at sea. 3 years since Elena's heart shattered into a million pieces. "You sure about this, miss?" The taxi driver's eyes met hers in the rearview mirror, concern etched across his weathered face. Blackwater Lighthouse. That place has a reputation. What kind of reputation? Elena asked, though part of her didn't want to know. The driver's knuckles whitened on the steering wheel. "Folks say the lighthouse keeper went mad back in 1952, killed his bride on their wedding night, then threw himself from the top. They say on stormy nights you can still hear her screaming." Elena's stomach churned, but she forced herself to speak firmly. "I don't believe in ghost stories." "Maybe you should," the driver muttered, pulling up to the base of a rocky cliff. Through the sheets of rain, Elena could see it, a towering structure of white stone, its light cutting through the darkness like a blade. "That'll be $40. Elena paid and stepped out into the storm. The wind immediately whipped her long black hair across her face, and the rain soaked through her jacket in seconds. The taxi sped away, leaving her alone with only the sound of crashing waves and her pounding heart. The path up to the lighthouse was treacherous, slick with rain and moss. Twice, Elena nearly lost her footing on the stone steps carved into the cliff face. But something pulled her forward, a desperate hope that maybe, just maybe, James was alive. The lighthouse door stood slightly ajar. "James!" Elena called out, pushing it open. The hinges screamed in protest. "James, are you here?" The interior was surprisingly well maintained. Candles flickered on every surface, casting dancing shadows on the curved walls. A fire crackled in the stone fireplace. Someone had been here recently. "Hello, my love." Elena spun around. There, standing in the doorway to the spiral staircase, was James. He looked exactly as she remembered. Tall, with those piercing blue eyes and that crooked smile that had made her fall in love with him 5 years ago. His dark hair was slightly longer, and he wore the same lighthouse keeper's uniform he'd been wearing the day he vanished. "James!" Elena ran to him, but stopped short just before touching him. Something felt wrong. His skin was too pale, almost translucent in the candlelight. How are you alive? They said you drowned." James's smile faltered. "It's complicated, Elena, but I've been waiting for you. I knew you'd come." "You sent the letter?" "Yes." He reached out and his fingers brushed her cheek. They were ice cold. "I've missed you so much. Every day, every night, I've thought of nothing but you." Elena wanted to melt into his arms, to forget the 3 years of grief and loneliness. But her journalist instincts, the same ones that had made her investigate James's disappearance obsessively, were screaming that something was terribly wrong. "James, what happened to you? Where have you been?" His expression darkened. "I'll explain everything, but first you must be freezing. Come, sit by the fire. I've made dinner." As if on cue, Elena noticed the table set for two, complete with wine glasses and covered dishes. The domesticity of it clashed violently with the strangeness of the situation. "James, I need answers. Now." He sighed, and for a moment, something flickered across his face. Was it pain? Fear? "The night I disappeared, I came here, to this lighthouse. I was investigating a story. just like you taught me, about the keeper who went mad, about the bride who died. Why didn't you tell me? Because I knew you'd want to come with me, and I wanted to protect you. His eyes met hers, and they were filled with such genuine love that Elena's heart ached. I found something that night, Elena. Something that changed everything. What did you find? Before James could answer, a sound echoed from above. A woman's scream, high and piercing, filled with terror and anguish. Elena jumped. What was that? James's face had gone completely expressionless. That's her, the bride. She's been here all along, Elena. And now, he paused, his eyes boring into hers. Now she wants what was taken from her. What does that mean? It means, James said softly, taking her hand in his freezing grip, that you're in terrible danger. And the only way to save you is to tell you the truth about what happened that night, about what I've become, and about the choice you're going to have to make. Thunder crashed overhead, and the lighthouse light began to spin faster, casting wild shadows that seemed to move with a life of their own. What choice? Elena whispered. James pulled her close, and she could feel, or rather couldn't feel, his heartbeat. The choice between the living and the dead, my love, because I'm not sure which one I am anymore. What do you mean you don't know if you're alive or dead? James, you're standing right here. You're talking to me. He turned away, walking toward the window where rain lashed against the glass. 3 years ago, I came to this lighthouse at midnight. I'd been researching the story of Thomas Blackwater, the keeper who supposedly murdered his bride, Catherine, in 1952. But the more I dug, the more I realized the official story was wrong. Wrong how? Thomas didn't kill Catherine. He loved her desperately. James's voice was thick with emotion. But on their wedding night, something else was here. Something ancient that lived in the lighthouse, feeding on the light, on the energy of the beacon. It wanted Catherine's life force, her youth, her love, and it took her. Elena's rational mind fought against the impossibility of what she was hearing. James, that's insane. There's no such thing as, I have proof. He moved to an old desk and pulled out a leather journal, its pages yellowed with age. Thomas's diary, I found it hidden in the walls. Read it. With shaking hands, Elena opened the journal. The handwriting was frantic, desperate. October 15th, 1952. It whispers to me through the walls. It says it's hungry. It says Catherine's light is so bright, so beautiful. I've tried to leave, but we can't. Every time we reach the bottom of the cliff, we find ourselves back at the top. We're trapped. October 18th, 1952. Catherine is changing. She's cold all the time. She says she hears singing, a woman's voice calling her name. October 20th, 1952. I'm losing her. Whatever is in this lighthouse is draining her, feeding on her. She barely recognizes me now. Her eyes are empty. I don't know what to do. God help me, I don't know what to do. October 21st, 1952. Catherine is gone, not dead, but not alive either. She walks the stairs calling my name, but when I look at her, I see something else looking back. The thing in the lighthouse has taken her body, her voice, but not her soul. Her soul is trapped, screaming, somewhere I can't reach. I'm going to end this. I'm going to destroy the light, even if it means destroying myself. The final entry was just one line written in a shaky hand. Forgive me, Catherine. I failed you. Elena looked up at James, tears streaming down her face. This can't be real. That night I came here, James continued, I climbed to the light room. I wanted to see if there was any truth to Thomas's ravings. And I found something. He paused, his jaw clenching. The light isn't just a light, Elena. It's a prison. And inside it, I saw her. Catherine. Her soul trapped for 70 years, screaming silently. What happened then? The entity, whatever it is, it sensed me. It reached out, and I felt it trying to do to me what it did to Catherine, to drain me, to take me. I ran, but I fell on the stairs, hit my head. He touched the back of his skull, and Elena saw a dark stain on his fingers. When I woke up, I was different. Different how? I don't need to eat. I don't need to sleep. I can't leave the lighthouse grounds. I've tried 1,000 times. And sometimes when I look in the mirror, his voice broke. Sometimes I don't see my reflection at all. Elena's mind was spinning. Every rational part of her screamed that this was impossible, that James had suffered some kind of mental break. But the cold of his skin, the way the shadows seemed to cling to him, the absolute conviction in his eyes, it all pointed to something beyond explanation. Why did you call me here? She asked. If this place is so dangerous, why bring me into it? James turned to face her fully, and in the firelight she could see tears on his cheeks. Because I'm fading, Elena. Every day I feel myself slipping away, becoming more like Catherine, trapped between life and death. And I realize that if I'm going to have any chance of breaking free, of truly living again, I need you. Me. Why me? Because love is the only thing stronger than what's in this lighthouse. He took her hands again, and despite the cold, Elena didn't pull away. Thomas loved Catherine, but his love wasn't enough because he was alone. He tried to fight it by himself, and he failed. But if we face it together, if our love is strong enough. Another scream echoed through the lighthouse, closer this time. The candles flickered wildly, and Elena felt a sudden drop in temperature that made her breath visible. She knows you're here, James said urgently. Catherine, or what's left of her. The entity uses her to lure people to the lighthouse, to feed. That's why I've been able to send you letters, to maintain some connection to the outside world. It wants you here. Then I should leave. Right now, you can't. James's grip tightened. The moment you stepped through that door, you became part of this. The only way out is through. We have to go to the light room. We have to face it. And do what? Free Catherine's soul. Break the entity's hold on this place. It's the only way either of us can truly leave. Elena looked into the eyes of the man she loved, the man she'd mourned for 3 years, and made her decision. Okay, tell me what we need to do. James pulled her into an embrace, and despite the cold, Elena felt a warmth spread through her chest, the warmth of hope. We need to reach the light room before midnight. That's when the entity is strongest, when it feeds. But it's also when it's most vulnerable, when the barrier between our world and whatever realm it comes from is thinnest. What time is it now? James glanced at an old clock on the wall. 11:15. We have 45 minutes. Then let's go! But as they turned toward the spiral staircase, the door to the lighthouse slammed shut with a deafening bang. The fire in the fireplace roared up, then died completely, plunging them into darkness, broken only by the spinning light from above. And in that darkness, Elena heard it, a woman's voice, sweet and melodic, singing a wedding song. Come to me, bride of the light, dance with me, dance with me through the night. Give to me your love so bright. Stay with me, forever in sight. It's starting, James whispered. Elena, no matter what you see, no matter what you hear, don't let go of my hand. Promise me. I promise. They began to climb the spiral staircase, hand in hand, into the heart of the lighthouse's darkness. The spiral staircase seemed to stretch on forever, each step creaking ominously under their feet. The singing grew louder as they climbed, joined now by other sounds. Whispers in languages Elena didn't recognize, the distant crash of waves that sounded almost like screams, and underneath it all, a deep, rhythmic pulsing like a massive heartbeat. How many people has it taken? Elena asked, her voice barely audible over the cacophony. I don't know, James replied. Thomas and Catherine were just the most recent before me, but I've seen things in my dreams, visions of other keepers, other victims, going back centuries. This lighthouse was built on an old site, a place where ships would wreck on the rocks. The locals used to call it the Widow's Teeth. They reached a landing, and Elena gasped. The walls were covered in scratches, thousands of them, overlapping and chaotic. Words carved desperately into the stone. Help us, can't leave, it's in the light, save her too late, forgive me. They all try to warn people, James said softly. Everyone who's been taken. They all tried to leave messages. Elena ran her fingers over the scratches, feeling the desperation in every mark. Did you make any of these? James nodded, pointing to a section of wall when fresh scratches spelled out. Elena, I'm sorry, I love you. Tears blurred Elena's vision. You knew I'd come. I hoped you wouldn't, but I knew you would. You never give up on the people you love. It's one of the things I love most about you. He cupped her face in his cold hands. It's also what makes you perfect bait for the entity. Before Elena could respond, a figure appeared on the stairs above them. A woman in a tattered wedding dress, her veil covering her face. She stood perfectly still, her head tilted at an unnatural angle. Catherine? Elena whispered. The figure didn't respond. Slowly she raised one pale hand and pointed up the stairs toward the light room. Don't look at her face, James warned. If you see what's underneath the veil, it'll try to take you right here. They moved carefully past the figure, Elena keeping her eyes fixed on the stairs ahead. As they passed, the woman in the wedding dress turned to follow them with her head, though her body remained motionless. Elena could hear breathing, wet, ragged breathing, coming from beneath the veil. He promised me forever, the figure whispered in a voice like breaking glass. He promised me love. He promised me light. I'm sorry, Elena found herself saying. I'm so sorry for what happened to you. The figure's head snapped toward her. Sorry? Sorry doesn't free me. Sorry doesn't end the hunger. Only love can do that. Only sacrifice. What kind of sacrifice? Elena asked, but James pulled her forward. Don't engage with it. That's not really Catherine talking. It's the entity, using her voice. They continued climbing, but now the stairs themselves seemed to be changing. The stone became slick with something that looked like water, but felt oily and wrong. The walls began to pulse visibly, as if they were inside some massive living thing. James, what is this entity? Where did it come from? I've had 3 years to research, to piece together the history. James's voice was strained as they climbed. The lighthouse was built in 1847, but the site is much older. There are records of a settlement here in the 1600s. a small fishing village. They worshiped something they called the light beneath the waves, a deity they believed protected them from storms. A deity, or something they mistook for one. Their records say they would make offerings to it, food, valuables, and once every 7 years, he paused, a bride, a young woman, newly married, would be sent out to sea in a boat with no oars. They believed she would become the deity's wife, and in return, it would keep the village safe. Elena felt sick. That's barbaric. The village was destroyed in a storm in 1672. Every building washed away, every person drowned, except the site where they made their offerings. This rock, this cliff, it was untouched. And whatever they were feeding, whatever they were worshiping, it didn't die. It just waited. They reached another landing, and this time there were multiple figures, men and women in various states of decay, all wearing the clothes of different eras. Lighthouse keepers and their families, Elena realized. All of them standing motionless, all of them watching. Are they all trapped like Catherine? Elena asked. Their bodies are. Their souls. James's voice cracked. I don't know. I hope they found peace. I hope they're not all still screaming inside those shells. One of the figures, a man in a 19th century keeper's uniform, suddenly lurched forward. His eyes were completely white, and his mouth opened impossibly wide. Turn back, he roared in a voice that seemed to come from everywhere at once. Turn back before it takes you both, before you become like us, eternal, empty, endless. The other figures began to move, closing in around them. Elena screamed, but James pulled her through the crowd, pushing past the grasping hands and hollow faces. They're trying to warn us, James shouted over the chaos. Part of them is still in there, still fighting. Run! They sprinted up the stairs, the figures shambling after them. Elena's lungs burned, her legs ached, but she didn't dare stop. Behind them, the voices of the trapped souls rose in a terrible chorus. Save us! Stop it! Run! Stay! Help! Leave! Love! Die! Finally, they burst through a doorway and slammed it shut behind them. James threw a heavy bolt across it, and the pounding from the other side began immediately. Elena collapsed against the wall, gasping for breath. They were in a small room, the keeper's quarters, she realized. There was a bed, a desk, and a small window that looked out over the storm-tossed sea. How much further? She managed to ask. James checked the clock on the wall. One more flight of stairs. But Elena, we only have 10 minutes until midnight, and this is where it gets truly dangerous. More dangerous than what we just went through? He nodded grimly. The entity will try to separate us. It will show us things, make us doubt each other, make us doubt ourselves. It will offer us what we want most in the world if we'll just give up, just let it feed. What could it possibly offer that would make me give up? James looked at her with such sadness that Elena's heart broke all over again. Me? Alive? Truly alive. It will offer to make me human again, to give us the life we should have had. All you have to do is take Catherine's place. Elena's blood ran cold. That's the sacrifice she mentioned. That's what it wants. Yes, and Elena, you need to know, if it comes to that, if that's the only way to stop this thing, you have to let me go. You have to refuse. Promise me. James, I can't. Promise me. His eyes were wild, desperate. I've been trapped here for 3 years, but that's nothing compared to an eternity. I won't let you suffer that fate. I won't. Before Elena could respond, the pounding on the door stopped. The sudden silence was somehow worse than the noise, and then softly a knock. 3 gentle raps. "Elena?" called a voice from the other side, a familiar voice. "Elena, sweetheart, is that you?" Elena's heart stopped. "Mom? I've been so worried about you, baby. Come out. Come home. This isn't your fight." "Your mother is dead," James said firmly. "She died 2 years ago. This isn't her." "I know," Elena whispered, tears streaming down her face. "I know it's not really her. But God, James, I miss her so much." "I miss you too, baby," the voice continued. "And I'm so proud of you. But you need to leave this place. Leave James. He's already gone. You can't save him. But you can save yourself. Please, Elena." "For me." Elena closed her eyes, fighting against the wave of grief and longing. "It's not real. It's not real. It's not real." James pulled her close. "I'm sorry. I'm so sorry it's using her against you." The voice changed, became deeper, masculine. "Elena, this is Dad. Listen to your mother. Come home. We're waiting for you." "My father is alive," Elena said through gritted teeth. "He's in Florida. This thing doesn't even know that." The voice laughed, a sound like grinding metal. "Clever girl, but I know what you really want. I know what you really fear." The door began to splinter, cracks spreading across the wood like lightning. "We need to move," James said. "Now." "The final staircase is through there." He pointed to a narrow door on the far side of the room. They ran for it just as the main door exploded inward. Elena didn't look back, didn't want to see what was coming through. They plunged into the darkness of the final staircase, the light from above growing brighter with each step. "You can't escape me." The entity's voice echoed around them, no longer bothering to disguise itself. "This lighthouse is my body. The light is my heart. And you, Elena Martinez, you are going to be my bride." "Like hell I am," Elena muttered and kept climbing. The final staircase opened into the light room, and Elena had to shield her eyes against the brilliance. The massive Fresnel lens rotated slowly, its beam cutting through the storm outside with hypnotic regularity. But there was something wrong with the light. It pulsed with colors that shouldn't exist, hues that hurt to look at, and within the beam, Elena could see shapes moving. Faces, hundreds of faces, all screaming silently. "The souls," James said, his voice hollow. "Everyone it's ever taken. They're all trapped in the light." The room itself was circular, with windows all around, offering a dizzying view of the storm and the rocks below. In the center, surrounding the light mechanism, was a circle of salt that had been broken in several places. Symbols were painted on the floor. Some Elena recognized from her research into folklore, others that seemed to writhe and change when she looked at them directly. "Thomas tried to contain it," James explained, moving carefully around the circle. "He researched protection rituals, binding spells, but he didn't finish. He couldn't. It was too strong." "So what do we do?" James pulled out a piece of chalk from his pocket. "We complete the circle. We finish what Thomas started. And then—" He hesitated. "Then we have to break the lens, destroy the light. It's the entity's anchor to this world. Without it, the soul should be freed, and the entity should be banished back to wherever it came from." "Should be?" "I'm working with incomplete information here, Elena. Thomas's journal ends before he could finish his plan." Elena looked at the massive lens, then at the windows. "If we break that, won't the glass go everywhere? We could be killed." Yes, James said simply, but if we don't, we'll be trapped here forever. Or worse. A sound made them both turn. The woman in the wedding dress, Catherine, or what wore her body, was standing at the top of the stairs. Slowly, she reached up and lifted her veil. "Don't look!" James shouted, but Elena had already seen. Where Catherine's face should have been was a swirling void, a darkness filled with stars that weren't stars and eyes that weren't eyes. It was like looking into the depths of space, but a space that was alive and hungry and aware. Elena felt her mind beginning to fracture, unable to process what she was seeing. "Beautiful, isn't it?" The entity spoke through Catherine's body. "This is what I really am. Not a god, not a demon. Something older, something that existed before your concepts of good and evil. I am hunger, I am need, I am the darkness between the stars, and I feed on light, the light of life, of love, of hope." James grabbed Elena's shoulders, forcing her to look at him instead. "Stay with me. Focus on my voice. Don't let it in." Elena blinked, her vision clearing. What? What is it?" "I am the reason ships wreck on rocks," the entity continued, moving closer. "I am the reason lovers drown in each other's arms. I am the reason hope turns to despair. And I have been so very hungry, Elena. The occasional keeper, the rare visitor, it's not enough. But you are different." "How am I different?" Elena asked, though she wasn't sure she wanted to know. "Your love is pure, untainted by doubt or fear. Even now, knowing what James has become, knowing the danger, you stay. That kind of love is rare, delicious. If I consume you, I could feed for a century." "You're not consuming anyone," James said, positioning himself between Elena and the entity. "We're ending this tonight." The entity laughed, and the sound made the lighthouse shake. You're already mine, James. You've been mine since the moment you fell on these stairs. Every day you become less human, more like them." It gestured to the faces in the light. "Soon you'll be nothing but another scream in my collection." "Maybe," James said, "but not today." He turned to Elena. "Start completing the circle. I'll hold it off." "James, no." "Do it." Elena grabbed the chalk and began frantically drawing, connecting the broken parts of the salt circle, reinforcing the symbols. Behind her, she could hear James and the entity, could hear the sounds of a struggle that didn't sound entirely physical. "You think you can fight me?" the entity mocked. "I am this lighthouse. I am the storm. I am the sea itself." "You're a parasite," James shot back, "and parasites can be killed." Elena worked faster, her hands shaking. The symbols were complex, and she had to get them exactly right. One mistake could make everything worse. "Elena!" the entity called, its voice suddenly soft, almost kind. "Look at him. Really look at him." Against her better judgment, Elena glanced over her shoulder. James was standing in a defensive posture, but as she watched, his form flickered. For just a moment, she saw what he really was, a translucent figure, barely there, more ghost than man. "He's already dead," the entity whispered. "Has been for 3 years. What you've been talking to, touching, loving, it's just an echo, a memory given form by my power. If you destroy me, you destroy him too." "That's not true," Elena said, but her voice wavered. "Isn't it? James, tell her the truth. Tell her what you really are." James's shoulders slumped. It's partially true. I'm not alive, not in the traditional sense. I'm sustained by the entity's power. If we break the light, if we banish it, I don't know what will happen to me. Elena's hand froze on the chalk. You knew this? You knew you might die, really die, and you didn't tell me. Because it doesn't matter. James turned to face her, and his eyes were filled with tears. Elena, I've been trapped in this half-life for 3 years. I can't eat, can't sleep, can't feel warmth or cold except as distant memories. I can't leave this lighthouse. I can't live. If destroying the entity means I finally get to rest, then that's a price I'm willing to pay. But I'm not willing to pay it, Elena shouted. I just got you back. You never really had me back, James said softly. I'm sorry, Elena. I'm so sorry. But you have to finish the circle. You have to end this. The entity laughed again. Or, it said, you could accept my offer, take Catherine's place, become my bride, and in return I'll make James truly alive again. I'll give him back his heartbeat, his warmth, his humanity. You'll be trapped, yes, but he'll be free. He'll live. Isn't that what you want? Elena looked between James and the entity, her mind racing. You can do that? You can make him human again? Elena, no. I can, the entity purred. I take life, but I can also give it. It's all just energy after all. I would simply transfer your life force to him. You would take his place in the light, and he would walk free. Don't listen to it, James pleaded. Elena, please. I'm not worth that sacrifice. You're worth everything to me, Elena said, tears streaming down her face. She looked at the incomplete circle, at the chalk in her hand, at the man she loved who wasn't quite a man anymore, and she made her choice. I'll do it, she said. I'll take Catherine's place. But first, you have to prove you can do what you claim. Make James human. Let me see his heartbeat. Let me feel his warmth. Then I'll come willingly. Elena, no! James lunged for her, but the entity was faster. Catherine's body moved with inhuman speed, grabbing James and holding him in place. A bargain, the entity said, sounding pleased. I accept. Watch, Elena. Watch as I give you what you want most. The light from the lens suddenly focused on James, bathing him in that impossible, colorful radiance. He screamed, a sound of pure agony, as his body began to change. Color flooded back into his skin. His form became solid, substantial. And then Elena heard it, the most beautiful sound in the world, a heartbeat. James collapsed to his knees, gasping, his chest heaving with real breaths. He looked up at Elena with eyes that were now fully alive, fully human. Elena, he whispered, what have you done? She's saved you, the entity said. Now, Elena, come to me. Step into the light. Become my bride, as you promised. Elena walked forward, her legs feeling like lead. She could see the faces in the light more clearly now. All those trapped souls screaming, begging, warning. Soon she would join them, but James would live. That was all that mattered. I love you, she said to James. I've always loved you. Live a good life. Be happy. And maybe someday you'll find a way to free me. But if you can't, that's okay too. Just knowing you're alive, that you're out there living, that's enough. She was at the edge of the light now, feeling its pull, feeling it reaching for her soul. Elena, wait! James struggled to his feet, his newly restored body still weak. There has to be another way. There isn't, Elena said, smiling through her tears. This is my choice. I choose you. I choose your life over mine. I choose... Stop! The voice came from behind them, and both Elena and the entity turned in shock. Standing at the entrance to the light room was Catherine, the real Catherine, not the shell the entity had been using. She was translucent, ghostly, but her eyes were clear and determined. "Catherine," Elena whispered. "You don't have to do this," Catherine said, moving forward. "I've been watching, listening, and I finally understand what Thomas was trying to tell me all those years ago." "What are you talking about?" the entity hissed, its form rippling with anger. "The entity lied," Catherine said. "It can't actually transfer life force. It can only take. When it made James human again, it didn't use your life, Elena. It used mine. What little was left of me that it hadn't consumed yet." Elena's eyes widened. "Then the bargain is a lie," Catherine finished. "If you step into that light, James won't stay human. He'll revert back to what he was, and you'll be trapped. The entity gets everything it wants, both of you, forever." The entity roared, and Catherine's ghostly form began to flicker. "Silence! You are mine! You have no power here!" "You're wrong," Catherine said, and her voice grew stronger. "I've been trapped in your light for 70 years. 70 years of watching, learning, understanding. And I finally figured out your weakness." "I have no weakness." "You do," Catherine said. "You feed on love, but you can't create it. You can only consume what already exists. And love, true love, doesn't diminish when it's shared. It multiplies." She turned to Elena and James. "Thomas's love protected me all these years, kept a part of me alive even in the light. But he was alone, fighting alone. You two aren't alone, and neither am I anymore." Catherine raised her hands, and suddenly other figures began to appear. All the souls trapped in the light, all the victims the entity had consumed over the centuries. They stood together, united. "We've all been fighting separately," Catherine said, "each of us trapped in our own nightmare, isolated. But Elena showed us something tonight. She showed us that love is stronger when it's shared, when we stand together." "No," the entity hissed. "No, you are mine, all of you." "We were," Catherine said, "but not anymore." She looked at Elena. "Finish the circle, complete the ritual. We'll handle the rest from inside." "But you'll be destroyed too," Elena protested. "If we break the light, we're already gone," Catherine said gently. "Our bodies died long ago. What's left are just echoes, memories. But if we can free ourselves, if we can finally move on, that's all we want, to be at peace, to be with the ones we love in whatever comes next." Elena looked at James, who nodded, tears streaming down his face. She picked up the chalk with trembling hands and completed the final symbol. The circle flared to life, glowing with brilliant white light. "Now!" Catherine shouted. "James, break the lens!" James grabbed the hammer he'd dropped earlier and swung with all his strength. The hammer connected with the Fresnel lens, and for a moment, nothing happened. Then, with a sound like the universe cracking open, the lens shattered. The entity screamed, a sound of pure rage and terror and despair. Its form began to unravel, pulled apart by forces beyond comprehension. Inside the light, Catherine and the other souls joined hands, forming a chain. Their combined love blazed brighter than the entity's darkness, pushing back against the void. "Thank you," Catherine called out to Elena and James. "Thank you for showing us the way. Now go! Get out before the lighthouse collapses." "Catherine," Elena started. "Go!" Elena and James ran for the stairs as the light room began to disintegrate around them. Behind them, they could hear the entity's death throes, could hear Catherine and the other souls singing, not in pain, but in joy, in freedom, in triumph. They raced down the spiral staircase as it crumbled beneath their feet, leaping over gaps, dodging falling debris. The entire lighthouse was shaking itself apart, the entity's hold on it finally broken. They burst out of the front door and ran down the cliff path, not stopping until they reached the beach. Behind them, with a sound like the end of the world, Blackwater Lighthouse collapsed, the tower crumbling, the light going dark forever. Elena and James fell to their knees on the sand, gasping for breath, holding each other tight. And then, in the sky above the ruins, they saw it. Lights, hundreds of them, rising up from the wreckage. The souls finally free, ascending into whatever lay beyond. Among them, Elena could make out two figures, hand in hand, Catherine and Thomas, together at last. They seemed to pause, looking down at Elena and James. And then, as one, they smiled and waved goodbye before disappearing into the light. The storm had passed. The first rays of dawn were breaking over the horizon. "Is it really over?" Elena whispered. James pulled her close, and she felt his heartbeat, strong, steady, alive. "It's over. The entity is gone. The souls are free. And I'm—" He laughed, a sound of pure joy and disbelief. "I'm alive. I'm really alive." They sat there on the beach, holding each other as the sun rose, washing away the darkness of the night. The entity's scream was like the death of stars, like the collapse of universes. The light prison shattered from within, exploding outward in a cascade of brilliant colors that had no names. Elena felt herself falling, tumbling through space and time, still holding tight to James's hand. The Fresnel lens exploded in the physical world, sending shards of glass spinning through the light room. But the glass didn't fall. It hung suspended in the air, each piece reflecting the faces of the freed souls, their expressions transforming from agony to peace. The entity writhed and twisted, its form becoming more chaotic, more desperate. "No, they are mine, my food, my prisoners. You cannot take them from me." "We're not taking them," Elena said, her voice echoing with the power of all the souls united within her. "They're choosing to leave. They're choosing freedom over fear, love over hunger." Thomas Blackwater stepped forward, still holding Catherine's hand. For the first time in 70 years, he looked at peace. "You fed on us for so long. You twisted our love into suffering. But love isn't meant to be consumed. It's meant to be shared, to grow, to multiply." "And that's something you'll never understand," Catherine added, her voice clear and strong. "Because you are empty. You are nothing but an endless void, and no amount of feeding will ever fill you." The entity lashed out with its tendrils, trying to recapture the escaping souls. But the chain of love held firm, each soul protecting the others, their combined strength forming an unbreakable barrier. "I will not be defeated by mere humans," the entity roared. "I am ancient. I am power. I am—" "Dying," James said quietly. "Look at yourself. Without your prisoners, without their suffering to feed on, you're fading." And it was true. The entity's form was becoming less substantial, less real. The darkness that composed it was thinning, revealing something underneath, something small and pitiful and desperately afraid. Elena saw it then, the truth that Thomas had discovered, but never lived to share. "You're not a god," she said with sudden understanding. "You're not even a demon. You're just lonely. You're a creature that exists outside of love, outside of connection, and it's killing you. It's always been killing you. That's why you feed. Not for power, but because you're trying to fill a void that can never be filled. Silence! But the entity's voice was weaker now, almost pleading. You could have asked, Elena continued, and there was genuine sadness in her voice. All these centuries, all these souls, you could have simply asked to be part of something, to be connected. But instead you took, you consumed, you destroyed, and now it's too late. The entity's form collapsed inward, shrinking smaller and smaller. For just a moment, Elena saw what it truly was, a tiny spark of consciousness, born in the cold darkness between stars, desperate for warmth, but knowing only hunger. I, I was so hungry, it whispered, and then it was gone, winking out of existence like a candle flame in the wind. The moment the entity vanished, the lighthouse began to shake violently. Cracks spread across the walls and the floor tilted at a dangerous angle. The lighthouse is collapsing, James shouted. The entity was holding it together, keeping it standing all these years. The freed souls began to fade, their forms becoming translucent. Catherine looked at Elena and James with gratitude shining in her eyes. Thank you. Thank you for freeing us, for showing us that love could still win. What happens to you now? Elena asked. Thomas smiled. We move on, to whatever comes next, together. He looked at his wife with such devotion that Elena's heart ached. Finally, truly, together. One by one the souls faded away, each one pausing to nod their thanks before disappearing into whatever lay beyond. Soon only Catherine and Thomas remained. What about you two? James asked, his voice urgent as another section of floor collapsed. You're still here. You're still. We're not, Catherine said gently. Not really. We're just echoes, staying long enough to tell you something important. What? Thomas looked directly at James. You're not like us. You're not dead, James. You never were. James's eyes widened. But I don't have a heartbeat. I can't leave the lighthouse. The entity made you believe you were dead, Catherine explained. It fed on your despair, your sense of loss. But you were only ever injured. The cold, the inability to leave. Those were psychological chains, not physical ones. The entity trapped your mind, not your body. Then why can't I feel my heartbeat? Because you stopped believing in it, Thomas said. But Elena never stopped believing in you. Her love kept you anchored to life, even when you'd given up on yourself. Elena grabbed James's wrist, pressing her fingers to his pulse point. At first she felt nothing, but then, there, faint, but growing stronger, a heartbeat. James, she whispered, you're alive. You're really alive. James's eyes filled with tears. He pressed his hand to his chest, feeling the rhythm of his own heart for the first time in 3 years. I'm alive. Now go, Catherine urged as the lighthouse groaned and swayed. Get out of here before it's too late. Live the life we never got to live. Love each other the way we never got to love. Be happy. Thank you, Elena said, tears streaming down her face. Thank you for everything. Catherine and Thomas smiled one last time, their hands clasped together, and then they were gone. Truly gone. Finally at peace. We need to move. James grabbed Elena's hand, and together they ran for the stairs. The lighthouse was coming apart around them, stone and wood crashing down. They leaped over gaps in the floor, ducked under falling beams, and raced down the spiral staircase as it crumbled behind them. They burst out of the lighthouse door just as the entire structure began to collapse. James pulled Elena away from the building, and they ran down the cliff path, not stopping until they reached the beach below. Behind them, with a sound like thunder, Blackwater Lighthouse fell. The tower crumbled, the light went dark, and within moments, there was nothing left but rubble on the cliff top. Elena and James collapsed on the sand, gasping for breath. The storm had passed, and the first rays of dawn were breaking over the horizon, painting the sky in shades of pink and gold. "Is it really over?" Elena asked. James pulled her close, and this time she felt warmth, real human warmth. "It's over. The entity is gone. The souls are free. And he laughed, a sound of pure joy. "I'm alive. I'm really alive." They sat there on the beach holding each other as the sun rose, washing away the darkness of the night. Elena could feel James's heartbeat against her cheek, steady and strong. "What do we do now?" she asked. James kissed the top of her head. "We live, we love. We make up for lost time. We do all the things we dreamed about before I disappeared." "That sounds perfect." They stayed on the beach until the sun was fully up, neither one wanting to let go of the other. Eventually they heard sirens in the distance. Someone must have seen the lighthouse collapse and called for help. "We're going to have a lot of explaining to do," Elena said. "Let them think it was just an old building finally giving way," James replied. "The truth is too strange for anyone to believe anyway." "Except us. Except us." As the emergency vehicles arrived and people began to swarm the area, Elena and James walked away from the ruins of Blackwater Lighthouse hand in hand. They had faced death, defeated an ancient evil, and freed countless trapped souls. But more importantly, they had proven that love, true, selfless, unwavering love, was stronger than any darkness. Epilogue. 1 year later, Elena stood on a different beach, this one sunny and warm, watching the waves roll in. She wore a simple white dress, and in her hands was a bouquet of wildflowers. "Ready?" James asked, coming up beside her. He looked healthy and vibrant, all traces of the pale, ghostly figure from the lighthouse gone. He wore a simple suit, and his eyes sparkled with happiness. "More than ready," Elena replied. They had decided to get married on a beach, far from any lighthouses, far from any darkness. It was a small ceremony, just a few close friends and Elena's father, who had flown in from Florida. As the officiant began the ceremony, Elena thought about Catherine and Thomas, about their love that had endured even in the face of unimaginable horror. She hoped that wherever they were now, they were at peace, finally able to be together without fear or pain. "Do you, Elena Martinez, take this man to be your lawfully wedded husband?" the officiant asked. "I do," Elena said, squeezing James's hand. "And do you, James Cooper, take this woman to be your lawfully wedded wife?" "I do," James replied, his voice thick with emotion. "Then by the power vested in me, I now pronounce you husband and wife. You may kiss the bride." James pulled Elena close and kissed her, and in that moment, everything was perfect. The darkness was behind them. The future stretched out ahead, bright and full of possibility. As they pulled apart, Elena could have sworn she saw two figures standing at the edge of the beach. A man in a lighthouse keeper's uniform and a woman in a wedding dress. They were smiling, their hands clasped together, and then they faded away like morning mist. "Did you see that?" Elena whispered to James. "I did," he replied. "I think they came to say goodbye. And congratulations." Elena smiled, tears of joy running down her cheeks. "Goodbye, Catherine. Goodbye, Thomas. Thank you for showing us the way." The wind picked up, carrying with it the scent of salt and flowers, and Elena could have sworn she heard a woman's voice singing. Not the haunting, desperate song from the lighthouse, but something joyful and free. Love conquers all, through darkest night. Two hearts as one, burning bright. No force can break, no fear can sever. True love endures, now and forever. James wrapped his arm around Elena's waist, and together they walked down the beach, into their new life, leaving the ghosts of the past to their well-earned rest. The lighthouse was gone. The entity was defeated. The souls were free. And love, beautiful, powerful, eternal love, had won.